what we saw on May 9th was it was instigated by those in power. It was state-sponsored violence.
At that point, the only thing that came to my head was, look, we need to reach out to media. We need to get the message out.
Government has cracked down hard. This kind of, loss of civil liberty is nothing new.
Who do we go to when the very people that were expected to protect us are the ones that are taking our rights away and the ones infringing it?
Things will get a lot worse before they get better.
We are proud lions. Now is the time that we stand for our ground, for who we are.
He's been Prime Minister 5 times. We know for a fact that there is no way that the Rajapaksas are going to be held accountable, because historically he has been somebody, even though he's from the opposition, he has been somebody who has protected the Rajapaksas consistently. For example, in the last regime, he was the Prime Minister under the UNP, and there were lots of cases against the Rajapaksas that had come out, and he almost single-handedly ensured that none of those cases were pulled forward, and that none of those those allegations weren't convicted of those crimes.
Ranil being appointed as the Prime Minister is not what the people want. Firstly, he doesn't have a majority in Parliament. He has only one seat. He was someone who was rejected. He's someone who has to retire at this point, who should have retired a long time back from his political career. Him being appointed as the Prime Minister is just a ploy by the Rajapaksas all over again to get off scot-free of all of their trials and the sort of justice that's supposed to be served. I feel like it's their only ticket out of having to face some sort of accountability for everything they have done.
I don't necessarily think it's going to change much, because it's basically they're just reshuffling the same bunch of people that they have been reshuffling for the past so many years. I mean, what people wanted, people had issues with the Rajapaksas, and they had issues with all of the corruption that happened in the past. They had issues with all of the human rights violations that happened in the past. And then they put into the position of the Prime Minister somebody who has a history of helping these same people cover up their tracks, and also who has a history of similar types of crimes. So really, the people aren't really getting what they want. So there is no point. See, the thing is that is nothing new for anybody who has been living in Sri Lanka, right? Because if you think about it, if you look at the past, and if you look at police violence, and if you look at the way that the military has conducted itself in times of civilian dissent, you can see that the government has cracked down hard. This kind of, loss of civil liberty is nothing new. And right now we are seeing that situation, kind of come over towards the more privileged people, towards Colombo as well.
Right now, we do have faces of the attackers. We have their Facebook profiles, their numbers, identity card numbers, but there's no action taken against them. And the ironic part is there's no action taken against them. But the moment someone from the peaceful protesters gets involved in something, in less than a day, you see, the cops coming in.
The Rajapaksas have ruled through fear. That is what they have done. And the way they come into power as well is, as I said before, by exploiting racial tensions. They create this this huge fear amongst the Sinhala Buddhist majority against the Muslims and the Tamils, and they suppress those minorities with fear. So they've been doing this for years. It's just, this is the first time that, and I think this is the reason that so many people are protesting, it's the first time that everyone's liberties have been violated by the Rajapaksas, including the majority. First misconception is that it is a new government, because it's still the same heads. We call it Olugeri Marakana, which is that the same heads are just getting replaced and reshuffled in a musical chairs of a cabinet. We'd like to see accountability, which is the first step to us regaining trust in those in in our elected representatives, which I think lots of people have been calling for asset declarations. Only 10 out of 225 of our parliamentarians have publicly declared their assets. So that is one thing in terms of gaining the confidence of the people. But certainly doing the hard things, even if it means being unpopular, doing the things, focusing very strongly on stabilizing the economy, focusing very strongly on getting justice for those who, have, or compensating those who have been harmed. So, like 10 people have died in gas queues, things like that. And building up, rebuilding, I guess, our foreign relations, even though that's a complete mess right now.
Now what he really needs to do is first help our economy get back in track. Have some social networking for the people who are really suffering out of this. To have our basic requirements of fuel, electricity, milk powder. I mean, I never thought that I'd have to live through a time where people were like dying in queues to get some kerosene oil. The second thing is the abolishment of the 20th Amendment. We need a 21st Amendment in where we see the separation of the executive from the judiciary and the legislature. We need those powers to be separate, and we need checks to be on those powers. Like bluntly saying, he could deploy the forces on the road like he's doing right now and just shoot on sight. And what can we do about it? Nothing.
The best thing he can do, if we are going to be stuck with him, is to listen to other people who are actually well versed in economics and actually make decisions that make sense for the country, rather than short-term decisions just to placate voter bases that kind of have been happening right now. And also to use the resources that have been coming into the country in a way that is effective for the people. For example, like the credit line that we got from India, I think that was supposed to go for things like food and medicine, but then for some unknown reason it went into construction and towards purchasing steel. That is a decision that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I would say that they're the most cowardly bunch of people that have honestly ever been on the face of this earth, and that if they think that they can continue to rule and rule this country via division and with violence, then they're sorely mistaken. And the youth themselves have risen in a way that they have never before, peacefully and in a united manner with no party affiliations, just completely for the sake of our future.
They have stripped us away from everything. They had used our religions, our races as a weapon against the people to separate us. And now, at least now, without getting more blood on their hands, they really need to step down. Because if they continue, there's going to be more bloodshed. And we as the youth can't bear to watch that.